It's like work day, isn't it? Jerry, Jerry.
Now I
So
gotta watch what I say.
we'll
Now you
start
have
this.
to behave.
God. Okay. I suppose I should say welcome to the first Ride On podcast. Join us today. We have Eric. Where are you in the world today, Eric?
I'm in Roswell, just
Oh.
back from Athens, Georgia.
Sure.
Happy to be home.
And we have Darcy up and coming. We have
Yes.
Mr. Jerry, also in Roswell, and we have Mr. Paul, also incoming. And Mr. Darcy has a brand new toy. Do you want to tell us what it is and why you went for it?
So last Saturday, not yesterday, week ago, I purchased a brand new 2022 R18 bagger, BMW R18 bagger. I am very happy with it. I've already ridden 550 miles, and just absolutely fantastic motorcycle. Why did I go for it? If you ask yourself who out there these modern retros are being made for, what audience, that would be me. I just absolutely love them, and they just call to past experiences and bikes that I had and bikes that my dad had. So I, a couple of years back, bought an R9T with that, wanting to have that modern retro, but I think the R9T is a bit too compact for me and my size. I then went for a 1984 R100 RS, which is a beautiful, historic, great motorcycle, but great vintage bike. But with that, you get vintage tires and vintage brakes and vintage suspension. And so I just, it just wasn't, I didn't care for it. Last 2 Saturdays ago, when I test rode that R18 bagger, it just kind of evoked every one of those emotions on a package that is the right size for me and has all the greatest technologies you can think on the bikes right now, including the super nice 11-inch, 10.5-inch TFT that it comes with. So, and that was when I said, okay, I want one. So I'm super happy with it.
And a quick shout out to your dealer, because I know your dealer's up in Charlotte, is that right?
Yes, I go up to the BMW motorcycles in Charlotte. They're BMW, Ducati, Triumph multi-dealer. And so that's where I bought my last few bikes. And that's where I went up there actually to do a schedule maintenance on me and my wife's bikes. And that's when I test rode the bagger. And I went back the following Saturday and bought it. So
yeah. Well, I love test riding bikes, for the channel, etc. But it is it's a bit of a lethal hobby, isn't it? Once you start riding new bikes, you kind of think, it'd be nice to own that.
We did a 250-mile loop right there on Saturday off the dealership around Charlotte and North Carolina, headed north. And then 260 miles from Charlotte here through, small South Carolina roads. So that's why when I got home, I already had well over 500 miles, but those have been comfortable. There's no pain, no back pain, nothing. Just great, super comfortable bike. And
Cool.
It pulls like a tractor. So
Awesome.
It's 91 horsepower and 126 pound-feet of torque.
Yeah, that's a lot of torque in that bike.
It just runs, and it handles as we all expect a BMW to handle. We have all owned them, so we know that it just handles like a BMW.
Did you scrape any pegs?
I scraped once, actually, very slow on a roundabout. So not really even, fast on a curve or anything. But I haven't been up on the 60 and the 180s and the 129s yet. So we'll see.
Oh yeah, I'm glad it's working out anyway. It sounds like it's the right bike for you at the right time.
Yep.
And normally I know myself, whenever I get a new bike, there's a kind of nice kudo element to it in terms of you go out with your riding mates and you've got the latest and greatest, coolest bike. But your tenure at the head of the pack for the new vehicle was very short-lived, less than 24 hours, I think, when the youngest member of the ride-on crew, young Master Kai, who is the son of Eric, picked up his new Triumph Tiger 660, which is quite a cool bike. So, Eric, do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So my youngest, who is 17, has, fortunately for me, stressfully for my wife, decided to pick up motorcycling as a hobby and a passion. So he got licensed and he put about 1,500 miles with me on my MkII, tooling mostly around North Georgia. Joined the ride-on crew, and everyone on the group was very accommodating. And I think he benefited from the decades of experience that everyone was happy to share. He's become, from what I've seen, he's a fairly competent rider. I feel comfortable with him riding with this group, which doesn't go slowly through the mountains, and he's doing well. So he was on the fence between a Triumph Trident, which has that same 660 engine, and the Yamaha MT-07. That was kind of his price point and size bike. And we went together down to the Triumph event in downtown Atlanta, where he eyeballed the new Tiger 660 Sport, which is an adventure style bike with the same Triumph Trident engine, a slightly bigger gas tank, some wind protection, some nice doodads that you can get on an adventure bike, including panniers. And he decided that was a bike for him. We waited about a little over 2 months since putting down a deposit, and he got it last weekend. And since, we've only ridden it once, but he rode it like he had ridden it a lot more than once. He was comfortable. He loves it. He's a little irked because the weather isn't allowing him to ride, his work schedule, track meets, all that stuff. He wants to go out this afternoon if the roads dry up. But he's loving it. He just added heated grips, grip guards, a power outlet, and bags so far. And he's aiming probably for an exhaust down the road, but he likes it.
And equally, do you want to give a quick shout out to the dealer? Because I know they went the extra mile to get him on the road quickly.
Sure. So we were fortunate here in Roswell, Georgia. A gentleman that we've become familiar with is the owner of Pop's Garage. It was Pop's Coffee Shop on the right, became Roswell Triumph on the left. He owns the building. It's a nice combination of businesses. And knowing how excited Kai was to get out and ride, they went the extra mile, invited us up to the warehouse for the uncrating, got it ready to ride the next morning. We showed up and put 250 miles on it, or whatever it was, 200 miles. And it was fun. I mean, it's a great bike. I rode it yesterday, not yesterday, Friday, and I let Jerry ride it Friday. And it was the first time for both of us. And nimble and fun, quick, responsive, and light are the adjectives I threw out. It exceeded my expectations. Very impressive.
And what did you think, Jerry, when you had a quick spin on it?
Well, Eric took all the words that I used to describe it when I wrote it. So it was everything Eric said. It's quite a cool little bike. You know, I have a Honda Trail, which is very nimble, too nimble. And I tell you what, it handles that. It's got that light feeling like you're just gliding through the air, and good acceleration, nice looks. You got the blue one, which is I think you know, an impressive looking bike, and I think it'll do great on it. I think it's a perfect size, and you know, perfect cc's and horsepower for, you know, your first bike.
I totally agree. Yeah, I think it was the right decision, and as you say, Eric, he's you know, we're probably better rider than all of us at his age. I think he's very competent, and will keep himself grounded riding with us, I'm sure.
But do we have a line, excuse me, on how long it'll be before Kai gets his second bike? You know, his replacement for the Tiger?
I don't know. If he takes after his father, it'd be quite quick, I'd imagine.
He still has a few years of payments to make, so we'll see.
Yeah, I think he'll have to clear that with his mum first. She'll probably give him a tough fight.
Yeah.
So we recently went to well, some of us, certainly me, Jerry and Eric and a few guys from the Ducati club, we went to an event downtown that Ducati were hosting to look at some of the new bikes there. And there's a few things happening with Ducati, so I wanted to kind of briefly touch on those things really. The software update, the bikes that were at the show, and also some kind of potential news on the side jig. I'll cover the side jig thing fairly quickly because we don't know we don't know how much is kind of smoke and mirrors and truth in this. But at the show, I spoke with Phil Reed Jr., who's the son of the motorcycle racer Phil Reed, and he used to work for the Piaggio Group, and then he worked for the Triumph Group, and then he worked for the Ducati Group. And I mentioned to him that I got the Multistrada, and he was familiar with the channel and some of the videos I put out, including some of the negative feedback I've given Ducati North America and Sidejic, and some of the negative feedback on the channel about how the connectivity should be better. Specifically, the Ducati Connect app should work in the background rather than having to be the front app all the time, and that Sidejic should allow GPX import and export. And I mentioned to him that maybe there should be a better solution. And he said, well, firstly, they do take the negative criticism responsibly, although they don't seem the best at communicating that and getting back to people and letting them know that they're grateful for the feedback. But he did say that even Claudio was aware of the points that I'd brought up, and they'd been escalated up to him along with other people's. And he said, one potential option for them is CarPlay. So I don't know whether at the end of the day, they will try and get out the contract with Sidejic, or there's a longer term play to move to CarPlay. But certainly with Indian moving to CarPlay, Honda moving to CarPlay, others surely will follow. It's probably got to be the way to go. And now some of the apps, including Sidejic, actually, ironically, but also Riva, which I think Paul's got some good experience with, they are supported on CarPlay. So it's a lot easier for the manufacturers, I think, just to say, look, here's CarPlay and Android Auto, choose whatever app you like, have at it. It's nothing to do with us anymore. And I think that's the way to go. And I hope that happens, because they should have sorted out all the problems with the navigation side of things and connectivity side of things, and they haven't, which kind of brings us on to the software update. So one thing they did was they keep the Ducati Connect app connected now for up to 20 minutes when you stop. So when you fill up with gas, it was losing the connection, and you take 5 minutes or so to talk to your phone again. They've solved that. And also the heated grips. When you press the heated grips button, you used to have to go into the TFT to put the grips on, which was a nonsense. Every other manufacturer just says, if you've got a dedicated button, it's low, medium, high, off. They've resolved that. The other thing they're supposed to have implemented is suspension lowering. I was hoping Steve would be on the call today, because he's just had the software update, but the suspension lowering isn't working for him. So with the suspension lowering, you press the suspension button and it will lower the bike to the minimum preload, which is great if you're short of leg around town, and it will remain there until you either press the button again or you hit 70 miles an hour, and then the preload will go back to its previous setting. Again, I think it's a great idea, but they've messed up the execution. Harley Davidson showed them how to pilot that on the Pan America. So in the TFT, very obviously to me, what it should be is either off, if you're 6'8", you're not worried about it, or manual, if you really want manual control, or auto, which everybody who's, kind of under 5'7" will probably want it on auto all the time. And then when the bike gets to say 10 or 15 miles an hour, automatically lowers, maybe over 30 miles an hour, say, automatically raises. So I think there's still some room for improvement, but I'm glad they've at least made some improvement.
So I have one person commented. I commented on the Multistrada forum on Facebook and said that it was a half measure, a one in the right direction, but not as well executed as Harley did. And
Yeah.
Somebody said perhaps it was a patent issue. I don't know if any of you know that they might have patented that feature. I don't know if anybody knows that.
Yeah, we know Harley aren't short of a legal team, plenty of lawyers. So I mean, they once tried to kind of trademark the potato sound. It's just so. I'm pretty sure if they have a USP, they will always try and have it belted down. So yeah, that's a very good point. I'd imagine that would be kind of possible, at least in theory. Yeah. So yeah, good point. We'll have to see whether the others are bound to follow suit. We're expecting 1300 cc GSA next year, for instance, and we'll have to see whether that has it or not. And it doesn't look like the new forthcoming Tiger GT and Rally will have that, but it's only going to be a matter of time, I guess. At the Ducati for Red Tour, they had Pikes Peak, Multistrada. Let's do the three standouts. Pikes Peak, Multistrada. They had a Street Fighter SP with carbon fiber wheels, and they also had the Desert X, the new kind of cool Dakar rally style bike. Which of those did you like, or did you like all of those?
I think
I
I
didn't go,
probably
so
need
I
to go
can't
for a
comment.
Desert X.
Yeah, the Desert X is definitely a cool bike, and it's one of those bikes that's kind of got the right look, the right weight, the right performance, and the right price point. We're quite fortunate. We tend to, have fairly deep pockets and buy pretty much what we want. But a lot of people, this is a major purchase. They might be borrowing money for 3 or 5 years or something to buy it. And I think the Desert X will appeal to a lot of people in the same way the Tenere 700 has, probably. But it's that little bit cooler, isn't it?
I did agree with you on your video where it just looks quite phenomenal from the front, and it continues to look really good on the side with the tank. But once you get behind the handlebars, that whole area with the key and the dash just looked so out of place. It just didn't.
Yeah.
I think they missed it there, but it's the price point thing, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the headlights, they kind of stole from the Husqvarna Norden 901, which has just been released. They're very, very cool with the circular LEDs. And the big side panels kind of apes the 1980s Dakar replicas that had the great 8-gallon tanks type thing, which is very cool. I think what was slightly disappointing, although they kept saying it was a kind of prototype bike, was that they didn't have the auxiliary tank at the back, which kind of balances it visually. It makes the back end look much fatter, and without that, it's kind of skinny. And with the auxiliary tank, I think you get something like a 280-mile range, I think they were quoting, which is quite useful for solo touring. But pretty cool bike. Personally, I like the Street Fighter SP. It had BST carbon fiber wheels and a kind of brushed aluminum tank, and just looked absolutely stunning. I really like that. What did you think of the Pikes Peak, you Multistrada owners? You liked it?
I would really like to know how the seating position compares to my bike, the 1260 Multistrada, because I think the 1260 was a little bit more aggressive riding position than the V4S, like you guys have. So I'd really like to sit on one and kind of compare those back to back. I think it looks good. I'm not so sure about the one on the side of it. It looks, I don't know. I need to see it in person. But
that's an interesting point, because I don't believe it's a one, because in a lot of countries like England, it's actually illegal to have a race plate, as they call it, have a number on your bike. And if you look at it, it's not actually a one, it's just a dash, it's just a line. Gives the impression that it's a one, but it's not a number one. And I think they've done that deliberately so that it's not a race plate, it's just part of the graphics. It's a dash. So it's quite a subtle legal thing. Yeah.
Well, a lot of people commented, if you're going to put a number on it, why not put Carlin's number on it?
Yes,
and that would make sense, that it's not actually a number.
Yeah, absolutely. For those at home that isn't familiar with what Paul's saying, he's talking about R18, who raced for Ducati on the Pikes Peak race on the Multistrada, and unfortunately was killed. I believe Ducati were very good with the fact with the family. You know, they didn't want to release another bike with the Multistrada Pikes Peak name, and the family were like, no, absolutely do it, you know. So yeah, I was just about to sit on the bike actually, and somebody came up to me at the tour and said, oh, you know, you're Richard.Dunn from the Ride On channel, and started talking to me. So I kind of lost my opportunity to sit on the bike, but they were asking me, was I going to buy one? And I said, it's not for me, because I'm like a lot of my friends, I love it. And then I say that, yeah, I could put panniers on it and a taller screen, and yeah, you know, I can start turning it into the you know, the full sport production. I think I just call it the sport now. That you know, that Eric and I have got. And so for me, who typically, like you guys, when we go out, we do 200 or 300 mile days, and quite often tour. I think the standard bike is more appropriate, but
I think
it looks good.
You know, if you consider the V4S with luggage and the center stand and the heated grips and all those things, to go from that bike to the Pikes Peak, it's realistically $3,000 to $5,000 more expensive, depending upon what you want to put on it. And you know, I think most people will say, and it's kind of hard to tell. I think we're early days with, you know, feedback from the magazine writers, reviewers. You know, they all really give it glowing reviews. I'm not so sure that that's reality yet. But to say, okay, if I've got to spend another $3,000 to $5,000, is it really $3,000 to $5,000 better or sportier or whatever it is you're looking for over what you guys have with the V4S or the V4S full sport? You know?
I think there has to be an offset in price for sure, because you're losing a lot of equipment, and also I would like to see, if you're going to go a sporty Ducati, go hardcore, right? Let's put a 208 horsepower Street Fighter V4S engine in there and BST carbon fiber wheels, right? And just, you got no competition, because there's no other manufacturer going to come out with something to beat that. And I'd like to see something like that. And most people buying that bike, they're not going to worry if it's 33 grand or 30 grand, right? It's just, in fact, they're probably willingly spend another 3 grand or whatever if it's got carbon fiber wheels and an extra, you know, 30 horsepower, even if they'll never use it, just to sort of say, I've got a 200 horsepower, you know, adventure bike, if you like, with carbon fiber wheels. So.
Those changes would probably be enough to move me, I'll tell you, because I don't think I'm not willing to, after all I've sunk into customizing my V4S, even though I love the single-sided swing arm, I'm not going to redo everything. But if it was a performance difference, I might.
I think what a lot of people wanted is the single-sided swing arm and the 17-inch front wheel of the Pikes Peak on the V4S.
Yeah.
When they originally came out with the new multi V4, I think that's what people wanted.
Yeah.
You know, and I think Ducati probably saw, okay, a lot of people saying, hey, single-sided swing arm, 17-inch front. They said, all right, we're going to come out with a special edition and give it to them. But it really misses all the, you know, you got to add the luggage, got to add a center stand, got to add heated grips. I think even the heated seat, taller windscreen, like you mentioned. You know, there's a lot of things that bike is missing. You have that cost and those forged alloy wheels and the different, you know, frame design that they have, you know, that cost a lot of money, but you're giving up a lot that I think the multi is really good at.
Yeah, and I think also
is the Pikes Peak, is it positioned as an adventure bike?
Well, you'd never take it off road.
Right.
Rotary.
So it's you know, it's.
I think tire and wheel combinations are kind of interesting, because, you know, with adventure bikes, in theory, they're tall rounders, they're heavyweight, you know, tourers really, and they just happen to look like off-road bikes. And if you're doing big miles, then you don't want something with super sticky rubber that's, you know, that you're going to run out of, you know, grip in 5 seconds flat. So kind of like, it's like, you know, I love having the Street Fighter V4S, and you think in your head, oh, well, that's okay. It just rips through a $300 rear tire in 3,000 miles. That's okay. It's what you expect, right? Because, you know, you got the ultimate, you know, naked bike. But it's very different when you're actually paying for that. you've got to take it in for a service, and they say, oh, desmodronic valves, and every 15k it's $2,000 service, please, and every 3k, yeah, it's $500 in tires or whatever. So there is that in terms of running costs, and so it's whether people want to do 3,000 sunny miles a year or whether they actually want to tour on it. And then also, I think it kind of brings us on to kind of probably the final thing we'll talk about today, which is really the Tiger 1200 GT Explorer, which one of the ride-on crew, Doug, has on order, although he's thinking about maybe switching to the multi. And what I notice is that, say, the standard multi-Strada V4S and the BMW R1260, 1250 GSA have the same tire combination, right? So it's I think they're on a 18 rear, 19 front with a 120 and 170, I think it is. But interestingly, the Tiger has 17 rear. But the Tiger has an 18 rear, and it's only 150 wide, which seems a bit skinny. I kind of like it in terms of agility, and I like the fact that Triumph don't over-tire their bikes just for appearances, except the Rocket 3. I just wonder how that is going to affect handling. It would probably be good in terms of tire longevity and affordability, but I wonder ultimately whether there's going to be enough grip with that.
They have two different front tire sizes, right? Right? Where one of the versions of that is the 21-inch, and then the other is the 19-inch with the mag wheel.
Yeah, the Rally versus the GT. The GT is
The GT
road version. Yeah.
I wonder if it's a price point issue with that, Richard.
I don't know.
I'm with you. I would prefer a wider tire.
Yeah.
Did they do it for weight? Did they do it for cost? But I noticed the exact same thing.
Yeah, it kind of, in some ways I really like that bike because it's kind of halfway between the GSA and the multi. It's kind of more sporty and lighter weight. It's about 35 pounds lighter, I think, than the GSA, including the 8-gallon tank, fully wet, road ready. And it's, going to be a little bit sportier and more agile. A few extra USPs like blind spots and stuff. But compared with the multi, it's a little bit more practical. You've got the shaft drive, you've got the 8-gallon tank. And so it kind of splits the difference nicely. It's not trying to be an all-out sports bike, and it's not trying to be an all-out tourer. And also, additionally, things I like about it are 10k service intervals, and I assume at least 20, if not 30k, for the valve check. So, in theory, with shaft drive and 8-gallon tank and heating everything and connectivity is standard and LED everything and long service intervals, that could be a nice sweet spot for Triumph. But I was looking through the specs the other night, just kind of comparing horsepower, which again is kind of in the middle, 136 for the GSA, 150 for the Tiger, 170 for the multi. And everything was kind of pretty Goldilocks, really. But until I looked at the tires, and I thought, that's kind of weird. I just don't know how that's gonna work out. We'll have to wait for the group tests, I guess, to see how that goes.
I wanted to touch on one last point before we close. So something that's going to interest everyone too. But go ahead, Rich.
You carry on, Darcy.
So one of the things I wanted to mention, and I forgot earlier with my R18 bagger, is with the 10.5-inch TFT, you get now the GPS connectivity through your phone. So what I did, as all of us here users of My Route app, is I plotted the route that we did north of Charlotte as well as the route home from Charlotte on My Route app. I converted that to an OpenStreetMap GPX, sent it to my phone email, open with the connected app, the BMW connected app, And basically all you have to do is open it and say go. And the minute you do that, you start the bike, the Bluetooth connectivity occurs, and it shows on that huge screen your entire GPX. It occupies about 1.5 inches of curves and turns, and worked absolutely flawless every single time. So I was extremely happy about the fact that I'll be able to use that on that bike. And because the connected app is coming through your phone, it even just told me that there was a car accident that was going to delay me 25 minutes, and it rerouted me perfectly right back on track. So I wanted to bring that point because all of us here use GPXs and map and everything, and it just worked flawlessly. I had no issues.
Yeah, it's certainly a problem for us multi-strada owners. It's a bane of contention, the side jack app, and that's why we're all users of Beeline. All of us, I think. So, yeah, I know when I had my last GSA, we used to create routes in my route app and save them with a OSM or OpenStreetMap overlay, save the GPX, and it would work connected through the GSA just fine. It really did work very, very well. So I'm sure that's still the case. And yeah, it makes you wonder why it's so difficult for Ducati.
And on the regular TFGs, all you get is the turn by turn. With the bigger screen, you actually get the turn by turn as well as the full 3D map. And I chose the perspective view, and it was great. So that is a motorcycle. I won't care about mounting my phone on it or my Nav 6 or anything like that because the screen really worked well. So.
Yeah, and they're using that on the RTs now, aren't they? And also the Ks as well.
It is a big screen. It is
massive. It's almost enough for me to buy a BMW.
It is right on your face and based on the bagger sitting position, that thing is right on your face.
You gotta stay strong.
I think it's probably going to kick us out of the meeting soon, but let's cover
Rich,
one.
it went on to unlimited.
We're on unlimited now.
We just all got a message that said
talk for hours
upgraded.
Well, let's talk. Talking about BMWs. Anything you want to say, Jerry?
Well,
You think you want to share?
Well, we can save it for another one, but
speculatively.
maybe I'll be getting a GSA soon to replace the multi.
How many miles are on the multi?
25, 26.
In a year.
Yeah, that's not bad mileage, is it?
Yeah. So
and I actually have an update for Jerry on that. The good news
and they
is
sent me something. They said it's in transit, right?
The
or
good
do they have
news is
it?
no longer in Germany.
Well, that's good.
It's
Yes.
in Russia.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what I was explained is that you have really good statuses from BMW for dealers while it's coming out of the factory and in transit in Germany to the boat, and then the status just kind of goes nowhere until it lands here ready for customs. And so what I was told is the status is now nowhere, which at least tells us it's on its way.
Hopefully it's not on that ship that's burning in the ocean.
169 Porsches have been burned on that ship, and another
also,
200 damaged.
Well, I'm just glad that we won't have to listen to Jerry, his subterfuge on rides, where we always get the side comments about how good BMW is.
And on touching a point on the Tiger that Richard talked about, I just recently also picked up a 1250 GS Rally. I'll not know that about 3 months ago, and love my GS's, diehard BMW guy, but the new Triumph Tiger 1200 has my attention. I will be one of the first, if not second, test riders of that bike when I see one, when it comes around, because I'm very, very interested in seeing what they've done.
How many times has that bike been around the world so far?
We don't know. Saying. Maybe they just didn't. Maybe they just didn't film it, Jerry.
Well, yeah. Well,
I think Jerry and I are very interested in that as well, and certainly I think the deal isn't quite right for Jerry, that might be a good second option for him, the Tiger. So we'll see. Not that I'm his broker, it's up to him how he spends his money, but I think it's another potential option for you, isn't it, Jerry? You know, if the deal isn't quite right to trade for GSA, you would consider the new 1200 GT Tiger as well.
Right. I mean, and we already have something peripherally worked out. So, you know, and if that all holds true, then that'll be fine. But I would, you know, if a certain individual hasn't made his decision about the new Tiger and wants to give me the opportunity to take his place in line, I hate to be the guinea pig every damn time.
Jerry, I have a question. Jerry, I have a question for you. 25,000 miles, does that include your engine change? Or is that 10,000 plus 25?
No, that 25 is on the odometer. So the engine change is at 8,000. So the guy, they're getting a bike for the engine, valve adjustment, all that. You can add 8,000 miles, before you have to do that. So it's, I'm just curious to see, and you guys should be curious to see what they're gonna get.
I'm not the one valuing your trade. You need to tell those guys.
Yeah, right.
Well, we don't need to be curious because we've no intention of selling our fabulous multi-strada.
That's true.
Yeah, right.
But I do think
I've got
it's
that.
like
That's recorded. I'll play that in 6 months and see.
I
remember when you guys all had GSAs lined up, and now they're done. You can't.
For now, wait till that 10.25-inch screen comes on a GSA. We'll see what happens.
That's because we're waiting until next year, Jerry, when it gets 1300cc and active cruise and blind spots and 100th boxer anniversary and all that good stuff.
Yeah,
but you'll have one of them as well, no doubt.
That's right. I mean, the 1250 Bumblebee, 1250 Bumblebee is the down payment on the 1300.
But yeah,
I don't think the 1300 GSA is going to be here before 2025, though.
Oh, really?
I don't think so.
That's the rumor.
Cool.
Actually, talking of waiting for vehicles and slightly off topic, but both, myself, Darcy, and Eric all have Rivian R1Ts on order. What do you think delivery's going to be? Well, Eric's getting a first edition model. Have they given you any indication yet as to when that's arriving?
I got an email in November. No update since then. My delivery window is April, May of this year. So it should be a couple months.
Cool.
Yeah, we'll see. There was an article yesterday that showed 1,000 or more R1Ts parked outside the plant in Normal, awaiting delivery. And I don't know whether they need an additional step, but they're literally 1,000 trucks, mostly trucks. There's some R1Ss.
Yeah.
Outside the factory awaiting delivery. I saw that on Facebook. They showed it.
Well, I saw in January, they had around about 500 employees. Now they have just under 5,000.
Oh yeah.
That's some ramp up.
Yeah. Well, they ramped. That was actually, they've had more than that. That was from maybe a January ago, but yes, their employee number is huge, and the Georgia state assumption of the zoning duties for the new Georgia plant will be a boon to speed the process so that they can be hopefully in operation by 2024, as they hope.
Yeah.
I got an email in November that told me because I ordered a Max Pack and they are pushing Max Pack productions further out, that I wasn't looking at until second half, end of the year of 22. So
yeah.
End of this year.
Same here, basically. Now I've got I've had a Cybertruck on order since 1985. That's what it feels like. About 2 years, 2.5 years, and I'm kind of edging my bets. Whichever one arrives first, I'm likely to go for. Now you also had a deposit down on the F-150 Lightning as well. Have you still got that deposit? Is your intention to go for whichever arrives first, or have you chosen one or the other?
I actually gave up the deposit on the F-150. So I'm not going to go for it. I currently own an F-150 Platinum, and I just didn't think it was that much of a difference. You kind of go into the same truck. And so I actually, and by the way, the Ford dealership I put my deposit, they gave me a full refund of it. So they didn't keep it or nothing. So, but yeah, I am no longer in line for an F-150 light. I just decided to stick with the Rivian. So
Jerry's already an EV fanboy with his Tesla. Well, it's actually his wife's Tesla, but he likes to use it all the
Yeah,
time.
she drove it once. That was it.
It's so funny too, because Jerry was a little bit anti-EV.
Yeah.
And now he's the only one in the group with an EV, right? That actually drives one.
Yeah.
You guys
Yeah.
are young enough to get on a waiting list for 18 or 20 years. I gotta experience the EVs while I'm still here.
That's terrible.
no,
Great. You
and
drive one, that's it. You know.
the other reason I kind of gave up on the F-150 on the Lightning is that right now I am most likely going to keep my gasoline powered F-150, even though I'm getting the Rivian.
I get it.
I will probably keep the F-150 just because, just in
Really?
case I need to do 900 miles real quick. I have it.
That'd be,
So,
what is it? 5 bikes and 2 trucks. Who do you think you are, Eric?
yeah, no, that's kind of sort of where I'm at.
I think
right
I heard
now.
that it's going to be 6 bikes here soon.
Oh, well, every time he buys a bike, he has to buy one for Jeannie as well. It's the law.
Well, my wife is already using the BMW builder and looking at a K1600B. So, yeah.
I've been looking at, as you know, we've been
So
talking offline about, servicing on 6s, opposed 6s and inline 6s and stuff. And I think the updates to the K16 are great. It's got the big new TFT, it's got the cornering lights, really nice paint jobs. It's a real limo, and of course Jerry's owned one as well. And I think there's even times now when you still miss its smoothness and the torque of that K1600 bagger.
we used to have a
Fantastic bike. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to have a K1600 GT, and my wife had the K1600 GTL, which was a lower bike for her, and she loved it. But they just got so heavy. But when she rode my R18B, she said, "This isn't for me. I want a K1600 bagger." So yes, Paul, maybe 6 bikes very soon.
Okay. Well, I didn't know about that, so I'm going to say the new number is 7. Because I think you said earlier you're going to be looking at the new Triumph, right? And then Jeannie will have to get something else, so that'll be 8. And then the Porsche is going to be out of the garage again.
So Paul, you've also changed vehicles this year as well, because you traded your Jeep Gladiator for a Ram Rebel, correct?
Yep.
Is that? And how are you getting on with that? You liking that?
I'm liking it, but I will say, sadly, the last 100 miles, I've had some noise coming from the engine. Could be an exhaust leak, could be the Hemi tick. I don't know. We're going to have to see. But other than that aspect of it, it's been great. I've already got almost 3,000 miles on it in a month.
Yeah.
It has a Hemi engine?
Yeah, 5.7 liter e-torque motor.
How many horse is that?
Enough.
Yeah. But
I never thought that I would like those side pockets that they put on the Dodge Rams.
The Ram box.
Ram box, but Paul
Yeah.
has that on his, and I've seen it, and I thought that is a good idea. You lose a little bit of width on your bed, but just a great idea. I really like that.
Mhm.
Yes, that's good. That's one thing I like actually with the talking the beds that I liked with the Rivian. They put in, I don't know what they call it, but the tailgate isn't a kind of traditional hinge. It's got these huge struts on it, and they've got a piece of the bed that kind of sits in between the tailgate and the bed itself to kind of extend it fully, because it's quite a short bed as standard. And
They call it a gooseneck. They call it a gooseneck hinge.
Gooseneck hinge. Yeah. And that kind of bodes well for carrying bikes. I think if you've got to trailer your bike anywhere. Although if you've still got the F-150 Platinum, you'll probably be throwing it in that with its longer bed.
It extends, I would say, a painfully short 4-foot standard bed into 7.5 feet. when it's
Yeah.
extended, which is certainly usable.
I'm having trouble sharing my screen, but you might be able to grab it, Paul. If you want to show the picture that you shared with us earlier offline.
Oh,
I don't know if you've got that to hand. If not, don't worry. We'll cover that next time.
I think we should probably wait till next time. I don't have it handy.
We'll do that. That'll be good because we'll probably have
he
an
already
update.
ran out of Kleenex. He's out of Kleenex. We don't want to start him crying again.
We'll probably have
I'm
an
telling you,
update.
this weekend has been full of not so great news. So,
Oh, that's a teaser for next time.
Yeah, that's
well,
teasing.
between the hemitic or whatever the noise is that I just mentioned, plus the other thing that y'all are alluding to, it's been a unpleasant weekend, but that's life.
That's why we all like EVs, because they're simple electric motors, very little to go wrong.
Considering only one of us has one.
By the way, guys, what is the price of gas these days? I don't know.
It's 70.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
It's I know it's going up by the hour in Russia at the moment, apparently. So
Yeah,
That's,
370 it was the last time I saw yesterday.
370. That's not bad. It's probably about $10 in the UK. So
I think I
Yeah,
paid
could be
$3.23 a
worse.
gallon at Costco.
They were lined up at Costco on Friday, I can tell you that.
yeah.
People know where the price is going and it's not down.
So what, Jerry? What accessories are you going for on the GSA? Just you kept your Touratech panniers, BMW panniers from your old GSA.
I'll just
So
snap
you'll have
those
those
onto
key.
I'll just snap those onto the new bike. And
Wait, are
You
these
know,
the
I don't-
rectangular ones or the trapezoidal ones?
well, I have two rectangular and one trapezoidal. You know, I think it was made out of the same aluminum that Paul's wheels are made of.
Yeah, they don't flex too well, do they?
So I don't know. I mean, what they asked me, the dealership sent me email, said, you know, what kind of accessories would you like to put on it?
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know. I mean, what does it need?
Clear
The
waters.
GSA, what is it missing?
Yep. Jerry mentioned those.
Tell me, I'm open.
Get you
Yeah,
some
I mean-
underwater lights, Jerry.
What are those lights, Jerry?
Yeah,
we didn't
some
do that much
lights.
to it.
We'll see. That would be the only thing is some lights,
We
like
didn't
Eric.
do too much to our last ones. Front fender extender for the front mud guard.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That's worth having, the mud
Machine art
slinger
photo.
thing.
Yep.
And then we put flexible lip on the screen, because the screen doesn't work properly like it does on the Multistrada, for instance. You have to put an ugly fairing on it. You have to
Doesn't work properly for
it,
you.
bolt it on.
Doesn't work properly for you.
Didn't work for a number of people, I think. But
Is that what Eric's
Yeah.
doing when I'm following him down the road? He's adjusting the screen all the time? Or
Yeah.
is he
I'm always
making
adjusting
hotel
the screen.
reservations?
No, I would never do that.
I'm not sure what they make the winglets out from Ducatis, but mine, Jerry will tell you, mine got something on it yesterday. We're not sure whether it was a splash of gasoline because my tank overflowed or something else, but it had like a kind of white deposit on it. And I tried several products, kind of, you know, from rubbing alcohol to goof off to, you know, all sorts of things actually. So I think it was 7 things I tried on it in the end, and I couldn't get it to, I couldn't get it off at all. And actually they're quite destroyed. Ended up quite distressed. It was like smeared glue all over it, and absolutely nothing would remove it. Even kind of neat goof off wouldn't remove it.
How about a Sharpie?
So, yeah. So I actually
Sharpie will
used
work.
some tinted
No, it was
ones
on the
from,
clear plastic.
yeah, on the
I
clear
was gonna say,
plastic.
why don't you just wrap it in that carbon fiber tape?
Why didn't you say that? I did that. That's what I said. I got
He did. It looks
I-
good.
I got online last night, and AMS Ducati in Texas, who are probably the biggest online presence for
Nice
Ducati
shop,
parts.
yeah.
They had some tinted wind deflectors in stock, so I ordered those. I think they were like $80 plus.
You're talking about the lower winglets, the ones.
Yeah, the lower
ones-
winglets.
Oh, okay. I thought
So
you
I
had
ordered-
those scoops on the bottom. I gotcha.
So I ordered those, but I thought, well, these are trash anyway, so I might as well have a go at wrapping them. And they look quite an awkward shape. And I thought it'd be difficult, but it took about 20 minutes for each one, and I put them on. Actually, there you go.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty nice, I think.
You're a third of the way to a Pikes Peak screen.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So So I might cancel that because it's the weekend and they're not, they're not posting anything. So yeah, I might go with that and see how it goes. I'm getting quite good. If I get laid off my job, I might I might get a job wrapping cars or something.
With what they charge at Expel and places like that, you'd probably be
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, that's one thing I thought about with the Rivian, actually, because it's quite a boxy design. It would actually be quite easy to wrap that front end yourself, particularly the front fascia. It's just flat, basically. It's just a rectangle, and also the headlights. So you could probably do that yourself pretty comfortably. You could probably do the hood as well, and they're really the main things. Most of these shops tend to wrap the mirrors, the hood, and the front kind of quarter and the front. So you could definitely have a go.
It's interesting you bring that up, Eric. When there was a tumble on my R1200 RT, which was basically someone I used to call a friend hit another bike who hit my bike and toppled it down on the ground. It cost more to wrap my RT saddlebags in the same color as it before than to take it to a painter and have it repainted.
Oh,
So
boy,
wrapping has become a big business and quite
Okay.
expensive.
and I think that's a very interesting point, because a lot of people I'm reading about wrapping versus ceramic on another vehicle that I'm considering. And so there's a whole school of thought, and people are very vocal about it. Well, you're just better off touching up the paint in a year or two, and you're going to save thousands of dollars.
I mean, I think all of you guys know Jay Dar, the customizing painting guy.
Yeah,
And I mean, he painted that saddlebag for me for half the cost it would have taken me to go to someone else and have it wrapped.
that's a great point.
So
Good point, Darcy.
yeah, so
Yeah.
interesting you bring that up.
Well, answer me this: why is it that every manufacturer is guilty of this? But why is it that the part of the pannier that you always kick is the only bit they paint, and the rest of the pannier
It's true.
is matte black? I don't get that. I really just don't get it at all. It's you'd at least think they would come up with a tougher.
Do you want to know how Triumph got around that problem on Kai's new Tiger? They just
They don't
haven't
paint.
made the colored panels yet. So
Oh yes, that's right.
we're 3 months out and we still don't have them. We're still waiting. Supposedly another 6 weeks they're going to be.
It's just a little joke.
No, that's actually interesting because my wife recently purchased a held suit, HELD suit,
Mhm.
riding suit. And for whatever reason, every time she puts that on and rides her XR, it leaves all this black scratched residue in the tank coming straight out of that suit. Does not happen when she puts on her climb suit or even her BMW one. So very odd. When we came back from Charlotte the last time around, I thought that her tank, was completely scratched, and I realized it was all black residue from that held suit. So I was like, well, you're not wearing this anymore.
Does it come off with
It came off. It came off with just a good bit of, a little bit of wax and cleaner, and it came right off. But I thought it was really weird that I've never in my motorcycling life had a piece of clothing leave behind paint residue like that. So, and it didn't rain or anything. Sorry, I missed the ride yesterday, but I'll be back on the next one. Yesterday was spend time with Mom Day. We actually ended up at Pops in the afternoon. I was hoping to see you guys maybe on the way back, but the usual characters were there. John Landstrom was there and everything. We sat and talked to him for a while. Y'all know John.
Yeah.
And he kept trying to talk my mother into getting a tattoo. So, but yeah, it was really nice, and she really enjoyed going over to the Triumph because that's the bikes that she used to see my dad riding. So had a good time. Sorry I missed the ride, but we'll be back on the next one. So.
Did he give an indication of what type of tattoo you wanted her to get? Or
He didn't get into those details.
well,
but,
normally you get a mom tattoo, but when you're talking to Mom, a son tattoo, maybe?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, she actually enjoyed Pops. She's like, I might just show up down here on my own now. So
we actually saw a couple of Pops regulars, including Dan at Barrel House. There was kind of like a coffee swap shop, really. Some of the regulars from Pops are up there, and maybe some of the regulars from Barrel House were down there. But yeah, we had a good ride yesterday. It was very light traffic. and all familiar roads, but really, really good roads, all interconnected. Blood Mountain, Wolfpan, Burnt Mountain, and Revis Mountain, Flat Bottom. It's a
I
really
have a
nice ride.
technical question about yesterday's ride.
Mhm.
Was Van Zant's open?
Yes.
Yes, they were
Wow.
open,
Yes.
and the
Good to
deer,
know.
all the deer hunters were there.
They were.
Right,
Very
they had
big
their
knives
skinning
strapped to their-
knives and
their
their
legs.
Glocks, and they were loaded for bear, baby.
Yeah, Van Zant's is a stop that we make somewhere. It's just north of Blue Ridge. It's a great stop
Yeah.
for a quick bite or a coffee or milkshake or something north of Blue Ridge. It's
Yeah.
a great place.
Had a fantastic BLT there. Very, very good.
Good to know they're open because they haven't been. So,
Yeah, and I believe Two Wheels of Such opens next week as well.
is the bridge still out? Is the bridge
Yes.
still out before you get to
Yeah,
there?
we-
And you have
we
to
had
go
to
around that little road. Yeah.
Black Ankle? Yeah, we had to
Mhm.
ride
Yes.
that. But Doug said it would be okay because he said it's fully paved, and of course it wasn't fully paved. And of course I gave a new U-turn guarantee, and we went past it and had to U-turn.
Well, actually, what I discovered is if you make that first right where they say detour, it is not paved. If you keep going straight
Yeah.
past it, it quite winds around over there, and it is all paved. Now it does dump you substantially further on Aska, but at least it's
Yeah.
paved. So
Well, I don't mind because I don't have to clean my wife's motorcycle. So it doesn't matter to me.
yeah, I have two bikes to clean when we end up in the dirt.
Yeah. I like the way that we typically ride on a Saturday, and I typically clean my bike on a Sunday, so it's nice and clean. Everybody kind of cleans their bike on a Friday, and then we ride on Saturday, and it gets dirty immediately. That kind of makes no sense to me. But when the road runs out, and we end up in gravel. Everybody's like, "I'm just cleaning my bike." Yeah.
Hey, Darcy, the R180, does it have reverse?
Yes, and
Okay.
it works like a champ. You
All
put the
right.
bike in neutral, you push the little lever, it's on your left hand right here, and you push the starter button and it goes backwards. And
Yeah.
it works awesome. For an
Yeah.
877-pound beast, I've actually used it a couple times.
Well, yeah, you
So-
will when you have a beast like that.
You can park on
But,
the
That's great.
You can park on a downhill grade.
Yeah, that was actually what happened up in North Carolina. Though, a typical mountain area, and it was on a downgrade, and I used it. So,
Yeah. I did wonder about the weight. I mean, it's kind of fairly similar with a road glide, but it's a lot heavier than like a Goldwing or something, and that kind of surprised me. It's a fair amount of weight, although it's a cliche, but the weight just disappears as soon as you pull away, obviously. But I think weight is much more of a problem when you get it wrong, and kind of the older you are, the less that tends to happen. So you just kind of think, what weight? But of course, in an emergency, you can kind of feel that weight a bit. Although I think boxers always help you because they always have such good engine braking, and a bike like that with the long wheelbase, you'll be using. The rear brake is actually effective as well as the front brake. So I'm sure they're linked still on the BM. So I'm sure it pulls
comes with a heel toe shifter, and I've always been taught to use heel shifters, so that's what I used. Works like a champ. Required a little adjustment because of where the boxer engine is and where your foot is, but once we got it adjusted appropriately, I've had no problem. Most of the people are complaining about that because of where it is, but once you get it adjusted to your size, it's fine.
Have you ordered any additional accessories for it? I mean, it has most things as standard, but like pannier in a bag, saddlebag in a bag, or anything.
I did order the inner bags because I like those for traveling. It's just more organized to open the saddlebag and pull everything out. I ordered a set of winglets that get mounted underneath the fairing to control air. I noticed that going down the highway at 80 miles an hour, there's a lot of wind that comes from underneath up, and it basically tries to lift your helmet. So those winglets should help with that management. And then, as I mentioned earlier, with your phone, BMW built a compartment on the tank that has a fan. for you to put your phone in there and close it, and it keeps it cool. And there is a charging port there, but you have to buy the special BMW cable for $60. And so, but I ordered that as well so that it just can charge my phone while it's inside. Those three things is what I've ordered. So
Yeah, one thing I like
The
about
compartment's
that,
big enough for your phone, right?
yes, it is.
the
It'll take
compartment
a-
is big enough for my iPhone without my quad lock
Yeah.
case. I have to remove my quad lock
Oh,
case.
do you? Ah,
Yes.
Same with the Ducati.
because I'd read it was
There you
good
go.
for it was good enough for a 13 Pro Max, which some of us have got, and that's a big phone. But yeah, if you got to remove your case each time, that's a definite pain.
Yeah, I did have to remove my quad lock case. It won't close with it there.
I mean, in theory, you don't need to mount it, of course, on your quad lock. If you're using it in that, but you kind of wonder why they don't future-proof it a bit. I know space is a premium on a bike, but you just think, just give it a whole another inch or something. Just kind of think about the next 5 years or something.
Which is interesting because when you look at the R18, there's a cover in the front that pops that way for the gas tank, and then the cover behind it for your phone. Well, that cover in the front with the gas tank is huge. That whole cover could have been an entire inch smaller in diameter and giving you more room on the phone. So these kind of design things, hopefully it's something maybe they fix. But I did see on the internet that guys with the iPhone, the Max, the large one, it does not fit in there.
Kind of the same with the multi, actually. When replace the filler cap with a keyless filler cap, you have to take all the housing off and stuff, and it's kind of like a rubber boot that the phone sits in. And you think, well, there's loads of room. They could have given it another inch in all directions. So why do this? In fact, if you were of a mind to, you could cut holes in it and split it a bit and fit your phone in. But of course, you would lose things other than your phone if you put them in there. And you just think, just what were you thinking? And if you're not using all that room, give us some more fuel, Mr. Ducati, because the tank's quite small.
Richard, a couple minutes ago, you mentioned link brakes, and I read something this week since I thought it would be interesting that I wasn't aware of, and it's on the Ducati because they are link brakes, and if you use both the front and the rear brake manually, you can disengage and diminish your braking capability versus allowing Ducati software to decide the front rear braking, when I didn't know that because I use both.
Traditionally, what used to happen, it might be all different these days with ECU sensors and stuff, but traditionally what used to happen is you'd pull the front brake on a Honda or something, like on a VFR Interceptor, and it would use like 2 pistons on the front and a single piston on the rear. It would work it out like that, and you always stop quicker using both brakes, but it would kind of if you were too heavy with the rear or too heavy with the front, it would spread the load a little bit, and it probably does that to an extent. And of course, with a cruiser with a long wheelbase, you're carrying more weight towards the rear of the bike. With a sports bike, it's all over the nose, so you almost don't need a rear brake with a race replica bike.
Other than at low speeds, if you want to use it. The inference came from Ducati Tech, which was they were responding to somebody, and they said that it's not recommended to use a rear brake and the front brake because the system gets confused, and you won't get the maximum braking that the software would decide for you using the link brake.
Imagine the old days when you just use the brakes you wanted to use yourself.
You can't be trusted anymore.
You traditionalist.
I did just buy a big gas guzzling V8. I mean, I do like the new stuff though. I like it.
Soon to be a dinosaur, baby. Hold on to it.
Yeah, I think not that you're anti-EV, Paul, but you'll probably be the last of us to make that transition. How long do you think you can last?
I mean, I'll be honest. I really like my 1260, and the bike to replace it may be another GSA. I don't know. I really struggle because I'm a big Ducati fan, but I like a single-sided swing arm.
Yeah, but Rich was asking about your next EV.
Yeah.
Oh, my next EV.
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't know, because with the reason I have a truck is because I have a trailer that I haul sometimes, and I actually just bought an enclosed trailer that I plan to haul my bike with to take trips out west. And so I just don't know that. I don't know how long it's going to be before an EV is feasible. Now, I could see maybe replacing my wife's car with an EV, but we'll see. She's not exactly excited about EVs.
I think it
Has she driven one?
Yeah, no, she hasn't.
Okay. Don't let her drive one.
Well,
I think for
I tried to
trailering,
interest her. We'll see.
I think for trailering, it's hard to beat internal combustion at the moment because obviously where it drastically affects range, irrelevant of whether it's ICE or EV. But the difference is, of course, with ICE you can refuel quickly. But you're going to pay for it because if you're doing 4 to the gallon or something, it's going to cost you a lot of money hauling. But equally, recharging, I suppose, it's getting a lot quicker, but it's still a pain. You still got to wait.
She posted something on Facebook about the Fisker Ocean. So I think that's a new EV.
Yeah.
From Fisker.
Yeah.
Your third go round as a company?
Yep, it is the third go round. See, what I think there, Richard, is that is always been to me the biggest issue with an EV, and it's still a little bit, even though I ordered my Rivian and I'm excited to get it, is how long you have to sit around for it to charge. But what's interesting is I'm also a researcher, and I'll spend hours looking at things. And what I've read, a lot of articles I read about that is you also kind of change your entire way in which you travel.
Right.
Because you're on that EV. So I've read articles of people saying, I have family in Nashville. I no longer just get on 75 and 24. I'm in Nashville. I take different roads. I figure out where Chargers is. I go to a place that's different for lunch that I would have never gone before because there was a Charger nearby. And so what I liked about that, and what I'm kind of looking forward to, is that you change the way in which you travel because you're in that EV, right? So I do think the biggest problem is still charging. It's hard to sit around for 3 hours to get a decent charge, right?
But like you said, I think that's changing.
It doesn't take 3 hours.
Like with a Rivian or something, you probably do, hops where you're stopping for 15, 20 minutes, and you're going from 20% to 60%, say, and then you're doing another 100 miles up the road or whatever, and that's good enough for most people because every 100 miles or so, they want to have a leg stretch and a cup of coffee or something. So it kind of unless you're focused, you don't want to get out your truck for 700 miles. It's doable, but it's definitely different. Yeah, for sure. And
you lose some battery by just doing long stints of highway mileage. Well, a lot of people don't realize there are beautiful 2-lane roads usually right next to your highway because that's how they used to get to places before the highways. So, people saying switch over to the 2-lane roads because you're going to have a lot more stopping and regenning and you're going to get more out of your battery. Right. That's, to be honest with you, other than just the truck itself and the technology and the switch to EV, that's kind of what I'm looking for, is that it's just a different way of traveling. So,
and going back to your point you were starting to make, Paul, about, the GSA 8, I totally get why you would feel like that. And I often do. I've had 4 GSs, 2 GSs, 2 GSAs, and it's such a well-built and well-developed bike after 40 years. As an all-round package, it's great. It's pretty cheap to service, or reasonable, because the cylinders are out in the breeze. Dealers are usually pretty fair. Residual values are the best in the class. And then you've got like the 8-gallon tank and the shaft drive. So I can see the appeal of that. And much as I wholeheartedly believe the Multistrada is the best looking and best handling adventure bike right now, and I absolutely love it. It's the most comfortable bike I've ever had. I've got no intentions of selling mine at the moment, but there's definitely times when I think, well, actually that Tiger with the single-sided swing or actually it's a dual arm on the Tiger, isn't it? But that Tiger with the cool new dual arm and the 8-gallon tank and the shaft drive, or the GSA, in terms of convenience, they're really hard to beat. No chains to mess about with, and you're not filling up every 5 seconds or constantly watching how many miles you've got remaining. There's a lot to be said for that, particularly if you do the sort of trips that Eric and Jerry do almost on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
There's
Well, and we can all,
said for that.
we're all pretty good at hustling those bikes, Yes, the Ducati's easier to ride fast, but I mean, we're all pretty good at riding a GSA fast. Well, except for Eric, because I don't think he's ever had one, but
Yeah. Well, Eric launched one off a cliff once.
See, what I told Paul is the
I can't
solution
say
to the
much about
problem.
launching bikes.
But
See, what I told Paul, the solution to the problem is you get a GSA and you get a Street Fighter SP, and now you have the best of both worlds,
yeah,
right?
I had that.
That's my
great.
excuse.
I
That's
made a
my excuse to
mistake.
my wife. That's my excuse to my wife. I need a GS, but I also need an
but your wife
XR.
rides.
Yeah.
I'm very careful to anything that I say to people because I'm very fortunate that my wife rides. So yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I ride in the mountains, and all of a sudden there's like 15 people behind me. I'm thinking, where do you come from? I think they get tunnel vision with my brake-free light on the back of my helmet, and I have to follow that. I know how much Jeannie loves that.
Yeah, Eric got a break free
It's
too.
kind of funny how nearly everybody's bought one now. And she really
I know.
hates it.
I can tell you exactly what happened when you came out with that video during Christmas of yours. She goes, "Oh no, everybody's gonna have one after 2 rides," and everybody has one after 2 rides.
Yeah. I'm going to hold out on that one myself. I think it's great if you ride in town and if you ride by yourself.
I think it's an awesome safety device if you're a commuter. If you're on 2-lane roads with your friends, do you really need it? Anyway, that's just my
Now,
opinion.
maybe if it had turn signals built in, it'd help me.
I thought they do. They don't. It's just brake. Okay. I thought they had turn
Yeah,
signals.
just
Okay.
break.
We have this guy that we ride with that his seems to flicker every time you shift gears. That's not the case either, I guess.
Oh yeah, no. It's
Okay.
interesting because I was riding behind several of them. Rich, I think I was behind Jerry at one point, and it was interesting that if we were coming up to a point where everybody would be slowing down, it didn't seem like they all react in the same way, but none of them were as bad as what you're referencing, Darcy.
That's why, honestly, guys, that's why Genie doesn't like it. There's this one person that we sometimes ride with, and his just seemed to sit there and flicker, and he's shifting gears, is flashing. It's just like this constant thing. And yeah, when I rode behind Jerry the other day, I just didn't seem the same thing. So I wonder if he has a different one, or if I don't know.
Me, it was not nearly as annoying. I mean, it wasn't annoying.
Exactly. Even Ginny said that.
I think last week, was it, Rich? We had 7 of us and we all had the brake free.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
shocked. And I was a slow adopter, but I'm impressed. It's a great device.
Yeah,
it
when
doesn't
they're-
bother me.
they're-
When I'm behind,
they're
the people
selling it.
that have them,
They're selling it like crazy.
Well, I
Yeah,
waited for a month for it to get back
Uh-huh.
in stock at Revzilla, so I could get Revzilla cash, and I'm sure they're selling them as fast as they can make. And I just went to the factory and bought it because
I
Revzilla
believe-
doesn't have them.
I believe that's the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised because normally, obviously, I'm leading the ride and I don't get to see it. But when Kai picked up his new bike and we went across Henderson Mountain, I thought I'll let the guys go ahead and get some footage. And it's really impressive, very, very impressive. I love the way that you see it come on when they're on the overrun, and then they grab the brakes and the brake lights come on. And it's just a real good early heads up for car drivers, and particularly at night. If we go to the Ducati Club meet or something, come back after dark, it's such a good safety aid, I think. So I hope they win a lot of awards for that. Really, it's going to save some lives, I'm sure.
For sure.
All right. Well, I think that's probably more than enough for anybody who's still watching.
You're not going to go to Joe Rogan territory, like 3 to 4 hours?
I'd like to get a Joe Rogan money. That would be good.
Well, this could be the start of it, Rich.
I'd like Spotify to say, we'll pay you $100 million to come across to us. So, well, thanks so much for joining us today. Really enjoyed the conversation. I know we got some real topics to come up next time in terms of touring and tales of woe, Paul. And we'll have another update on how you're getting on with your R18. And yeah, thanks for joining us, guys. We'll catch you soon.
All right.
Right often,
Take care.
right careful, right on.